14 and 88. And a good morning. As promised, it's SCS Live with Board Vice Chairman Kevin Woods and Superintendent Dorsey Hopson. Good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. How are you this morning?
Well, we're doing fine, and tell you what, it's almost back to school time, isn't it?
It's that time of year, Paul.
Man, hard to believe. I mean, where did the summer go? Of course, we've been, you guys have been working behind the scenes. Everybody's been working behind the scenes, but everybody else is going, August 10th, we're going back to school.
The summer just melted away with this hot weather we're having, Paul.
I'm going to tell you what. Listen, we've got a lot of topics that we want to cover this morning. Online registration, gear up for school, transportation, the TCAP results that you gentlemen talked about a couple of days ago. But first, we want to talk about, this is really a cool thing, about a program that occurred over the summer. Mr. Woods, besides being a school board member, folks, he is executive director of the Workforce Investment Network, and with the network and with the support of Superintendent Hopson, with SCS in both the city and county governments and business, a number of students were able to work in IT, weren't they, and earn a certificate. Pretty neat stuff. And before, Kevin, you talk about that, I want you to hear from a couple of the kids.
All right.
Yeah, that I talked to.
When I first heard about, internship, you're learning things, I just thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be so boring. But we had hands-on activity, like we took apart a desktop tower. That's awesome, but even more greater, we were getting paid. Like, having the young people get paid to receive a certification, it was the best chance of my life. Like, I've never heard of anything like this, and I'm only 17, about to enter college, and it's just an awesome experience.
Fantastic. Can I catch your name?
I'm Tier Ford.
Okay, Mr. Ford, tell me, what did you get out of this class or this internship, really?
Oh, I loved it. IT was always something I considered, but I never really had the experience with. And to get the experience that I wanted regarding the field and to get paid to do something, it was amazing for me.
Well, I have a computer in my office. Would you take a look at that?
Sure, I will.
The first student you heard was Tyra Neal, by the way. So tell us a little bit about this program, Kevin.
Well, Paul, first of all, thank you for allowing us to discuss this, what we consider to be an exciting and important topic. I was reading an article just last night where Google just announced that only 2% of their employees were African American. A small percentage of their population and their employee staff are female. When you look at the IT sector, we got to get more minorities and women in that particular space. And I was very excited when Shelby County Schools and Superintendent Hopson said that we would love to partner with you this summer to give these kids not only an opportunity to earn a summer employment opportunity, but also for them to see what it would be like to work in that particular space. And so it was an exciting opportunity this summer for them. Not only did they get a chance to work with some great people at Shelby County Schools, they had a chance to see what it's like to be in that particular field and walked away with a real industry certification. 85% of them passed an industry IT certification that they'll be able to take to the real world with them. So we're excited to partner with Shelby County Schools. And again, this would not have happened if it wasn't for first the state funding that we received, but just as important, what Superintendent Hopson said, let's do it, let's make it happen.
Yeah, we so appreciate Mr. Wood's leadership on this issue. Paul, I mean, it just really brought the phrase college and career ready to life. We know that we focus so much on making sure our students are prepared, for post-secondary opportunities. And when you have a chance to come in and not just learn, but also earn in an environment that, by all accounts, based on what I heard from the students, is fun and engaging, it's just best for kids. And by the way, just shout out Tyra Neal, Whitehaven High graduate. In fact, both of those students were Whitehaven High graduates, and Miss Neal, I know her. She, I think, received about $4 million worth of scholarships this year when she graduated. So I know she wants to be a teacher, but she also told me she was very interested in IT now. So I think just wonderful program, wonderful opportunity. I'm glad our students got a chance to participate.
Well, a big ceremony yesterday was held, and I know a lot of the folks said that even if the kids were not going into IT, hey, if they went to college, they needed an extra job, part-time job or whatever, they could get on a help desk of helping other students that can't figure out what's wrong with their technical gadgets.
Absolutely, Paul. And that's exactly the purpose, is just to give them more options than many of us saw when we were growing up. And again, I want to thank both mayors, Mayor Ward and Mayor Luttrell, for being in attendance. You often hear them both talk about the need for workforce and the need for investing in our youth. And so I think that was just a great coming together of what's necessary in order for us to put these kids in a position to be successful.
Well, one final thing before we move on to some other things, but I saw, and I know we get millions of surveys every day, but I saw this survey, and it came from one of the Memphis publications, that Memphis was, believe it or not, I think last year, one of the top 10 or 15 cities in growth of IT jobs, which was very, very encouraging. So I was thinking about that survey when I saw those kids yesterday, and I'm thinking, hopefully some of them will grow into that business and stay here in Memphis.
Well, that's the goal, absolutely, as we have our students matriculate through schools and not only look at the achievement, which we'll be talking about here shortly, of what's happening with education here in Shelby County. More of our kids will be going off to college, but what's more important is they can come back here and come to work. And Memphis was selected as one of 21 tech hire cities by the White House and President Obama. And so we're excited about just elevating the possibility of technology in the city of Memphis. And so it's a great opportunity for our students to be able to participate in that particular career path, and we hope to be able to do that again next year.
All right, so cool. Hey, if you have a question for the superintendent or for Mr. Woods, you can tweet us or you can Facebook us right now. Just go to the school website for that. Earlier this week, and for folks that were not able to hear the press conference or see the press conference live on 88.5 and C19, some very good news, Superintendent. The TCAP results came out from the state of Tennessee, and there were some very encouraging notes for Shelby County schools.
Yeah, Paul, so proud of our teachers and our school leaders and our students. I think that what we're seeing is that because of their hard work, we're starting to see some results. We showed improvement in 9 of 10 tested categories. We were rated a level 5 school district, which is the highest level a school district can receive for student growth. And it just speaks to the hard work that the people on the front lines are enduring every single day. And we're just so excited, Paul. And it's not one of those things where we're jumping up and down saying, hey, we got this thing figured out. But I think it does show that we certainly are on the right track, and that the effort that these teachers and school leaders are putting in every day is paying off. It's just, when you look at some of the changes and the challenges that the school system has had to endure over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, I'm just totally in awe of our teachers. You take our teachers, I think you stack our teachers up against any group of teachers in the country, and I'm going to put my money on our teachers. They endure, they're underappreciated, they're just a whole list of things that they have to deal with without the proper resources, without all the support. But they just continue to shine. That one area, Paul, where we certainly need to continue to improve in or accelerate our level of improvement in is literacy. We've talked several times about some of our efforts to improve the early literacy. In fact, that's priority 1 for our strategic plan. So we're going to be getting after it. But I want to just, again, the teachers, just thank them so much for what they do every single day. And even now, Paul, so we're going to be shifting to testing the higher standards that are set forth in 10 core, the Common Core. So, with the TCAP's going away.
Right.
So, and it just,
that was the last year, really.
It was. So, now the teachers in the school district, in fact, are going to have to shift, to a whole new way of thinking, a whole new way of preparing our students. So, but again, that discussion would be for another day. I think today is just a day to celebrate our teachers and our school leaders because they did such an outstanding job.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to mention here is, and there was a reason that it was held at Raleigh Egypt High School. A couple of years ago, Raleigh Egypt High School was really was going to be taken over by the state, and the community had an uprising out there. I mean, no, don't take away our school. So you've got some pretty good leadership there in Bo Griffin, the principal, and some teachers and all that. But the community, should we say, once again discovered the asset that they had in their community and backed that school.
I think that's one of the one of the positives associated with the ASD. I know a lot of people, have negative opinions of the ASD, but what the ASD certainly does, Paul, is it creates a sense of urgency and competition, and in a lot of instances, a rallying cry for communities. Not just Raleigh Egypt, but we saw Raleigh Egypt, A. Maceo Walker, American Way Middle, and LaRose Elementary. These were 4 schools where the ASD really had on the short list. Those communities really pushed back, Paul, and then they committed to supporting the schools like they hadn't done before. And so the state gave all those schools another opportunity, and all those schools earned either a level 4 or level 5 rating, which means they can't be taken over next year. But I think it shows 2 things. I think that when a community comes together and backs a school and supports a school, it's huge. And I think it also shows that the Shelby County schools can do this turnaround work. Again, the hardest work starts with our teachers. And time after time after time, Paul, I think there was a 66% of our schools showed academic improvement, and the list of just statistics go on and on and on, but I have to tie it back to the teachers. And certainly where you have the right community involvement and support in schools, you get positive results.
And Paul, I think Superintendent Hopson really nailed all the key points here. First of all, we appreciate him and his leadership and the board and some of the tough decisions that my colleagues have had to make over the years to make sure that the resources were there for our principals and teachers, but also to make sure that we held the superintendent accountable, to make sure that we went out and got the best leaders and teachers we possibly could in those hard-to-serve areas. I was having a conversation with my board colleague, Stephanie Love, and you know how committed she is to this tough work. And much of our student achievement and improvements were quite honestly, her district saw great gains.
Mm-hmm.
And the comment she made on yesterday was that our principals and our teachers are able to do this tough work in spite of, and I think that's what Superintendent Hopson mentioned, that in spite of all the difficulties and in spite of all the things that the community has to deal with, when you have great leaders in your schools and committed teachers, this work gets done. And what we have to be able to do as a school district and a school board is simply try to minimize the barriers that they have in front of them to be successful, and we'll start again next year. This work doesn't stop. As Superintendent Hopson indicated, and I think I was reading in the commercial appeal, is that we cannot rest on this success. We have to make sure we continue to build on it, and I think this is what this work is all about.
And I say too, Paul, I think the board deserves an awful lot of credit too, because over the years the board has really set some ambitious goals, had a vision around those goals, and then also have had to make some tough decisions regarding resources. I mean, we cut 60, 70, 80, 90 million dollars every year, and so as they're making those cuts and they're pushing us to discuss those cuts, obviously the first question when we're talking about expending dollars, Paul, is how is this going to affect student achievement? So when you have a small amount of money or a dwindling amount of resources, then you have to be more vigilant than ever in terms of making sure those dollars align to student achievement. So again, when we say do more with less, that's what we're doing, and I think it's a result of some of the smart and tough decisions that our board has had to make.
Yeah, I think the other thing, and we're going to go on, but the other thing was when we're covering that press conference live, you're talking about a board member, Stephanie Love. She also mentioned that we can't cookie cut success. In other words, what works in one school may not work in another school. So we've got to look at these almost as individual schools. And and find out what we can do that is successful, And I thought that was a good point as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that goes to the heart of the I-Zone schools.
Exactly.
Where you have, school leaders with more empowerment and autonomy to make decisions that are best for their particular school.
Alrighty, let's get to some of these questions because we're getting quite a few. It's 7:33. You're listening to SCS Live with Superintendent Hopson and Board Vice Chairman Kevin Woods. Question from a White Station High School teacher wants to know if the board would consider looking at their current school boundaries to help alleviate some of the overcrowding.
Well, I'll start with that particular question because I know our board is tasked with looking at attendance and zoning and reviewing that information and making recommendations. And I will definitely take that particular question. I know we have some schools that are very popular. Let's face it, and it speaks to the great academic successes that continue to happen at White Station and other schools. And when you have that situation, you have people that want to attend there. So it is a question that I know I'll take to heart and make sure that we take that back to our board for consideration.
All righty. Here's another question. This is from Mario, and we can expand this a little bit. But the bus did not run. This is his question. The bus did not run on time last year. My child had to wait outside forever. Will this happen again?
Well, I think our board has been very clear, Paul, that this is really a make or break year for our transportation provider. There obviously were a number of concerns last year with the bus company, but I think they've had a really good summer in terms of making sure that they were properly staffed, making sure that their GPS systems were up and running and linked to our system. So as part of their performance metrics, on-time arrival is one of the most heavily weighted factors. So, we expect that our transportation provider is going to do a whole lot better. Certainly the thought of a child not being able to get to school on time every single day or getting home late every day is unacceptable. Our requirement is that students, when we say on time, we want students to be at school early enough to be able to have breakfast if they want it. So certainly we expect things to get a lot better this year.
I think part of the problem last year was that they just couldn't find enough bus drivers, and a lot were having to maybe double up or take this route and then take another route and all that. So hopefully, and they're a separate contractor, but hopefully they have everybody that they needed to be hired over the summer.
So we've been getting weekly reports. They are fully staffed as of now.
So they are, okay.
So they are. Now they still are. There's still the two requirements: enough people to run the routes, and then they have to have a certain number of overages drivers or substitute drivers. I think they're still hiring substitute drivers, but they have indicated that they're ready to go.
Alrighty. Another question here. I could almost answer this, but I'm going to let you guys do it. I heard about a football player going to the hospital because of heat exhaustion. Why are we still practicing in the heat?
Yeah, so we actually a football player at, I think it was
at East High School.
Hayward County.
Yes. Yeah, he actually passed earlier.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Saw that last night.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we we obviously have very strict or have issued advisories and guidelines as to practice in the heat, and I think our school leaders and our coaches are adhering to it. But obviously, when it gets to those triple-digit high humidity days, we're asking our coaches and school leaders to take appropriate measures, and if appropriate, not have practice. I mean, certainly football is big here, and folks are getting ready for the season. But we can't do that at the expense of the safety of our students.
And just to add to it, the TSSAA, which of course is the state governing body of athletics, their rule is that if the heat index is at 103 or above, you cannot practice. You've got to stop practicing. And I know she was alluding to the East High School player. He was treated very quickly and properly, and he's fine today. And I know that most of the schools are, they're getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning to try to beat the heat and practice during the heat. But those high school football coaches, I will assure this lady that their number one concern are your children. And you can't learn football or practice and get better if you're not if you're having to play in those kind of adverse conditions, and they don't want the kids to be in there. That's for sure.
Well, I think DePaul, the most important thing are our student safety. They're student first and athlete second. I think you look at this issue, and again, this is an issue that the whole state is dealing with because of how early the season starts. There's conversation around should football season start later in the season. Therefore, it starts to get a little cooler when they start to practice. But obviously, those are going to be decisions that, as you indicated, that the TSSAA will have to determine in these situations. I think our coaches take very seriously and make sure that student safety is the number one priority.
No doubt about it. This question, I think every time we have a show, this pops up, gentlemen. This came from Deshaun. Are we still wearing white polos with black or tan pants?
It does come up all the time, Paul, but at this point and under board policy, school uniforms are a school decision. I know there are a number of schools this year that have changed from wearing uniforms to just being governed by the dress code. So I think the appropriate place for that discussion are in school councils and PTAs and PTOs at schools, and I think it was wise for the board to give schools and communities those decisions.
And that gives a reason why parents should join the PTA organizations. Have an input in school, right?
And the process is very clear. I mean, essentially, parents and students vote, and let their voices be heard, and then principals have the authority to act from there.
We had a question about online registration, but tell us a little bit about how online registration came about and how it is going in this first year here in Shelby County Schools.
Well, Paul, every year, it seems like forever, we'd have, one day, 3 or 4 days before the start of school year, and you try to have, 110,000 people get registered, and it just is not efficient, and it's frustrating. So we said last year, really at the board's urging, that we wanted to change that process. So it's been this year, the option to do all students online has been there, but I think as with any change process, some people have been more receptive to it than others. I think we're right around 35 or 36,000 students who've been registered online. So we expect that there will be a lot of people who show up on August the 4th at schools, but obviously it won't be as many as there have been in years past. But we've learned a lot, in this first year of changing the registration process. So we expect that moving forward, like for example, probably a big thing was there's this thing called SNAP codes.
Yeah.
And your SNAP code allows you to get online to enter your child's information. Some instances, SNAP codes were mailed out, and parents either didn't receive them or didn't know there were SNAP codes, and then that slowed things down. So what we'll do next year is put those SNAP codes on the final report card so parents will know earlier. But all in all, I think that it's been a huge success, and we look forward to getting better.
And I think Superintendent it's been a little modest because I can tell you, Paul, if you look at the state as a whole when it comes to doing business online, Tennessee continued to rank very low as far as the number of our citizens that will engage in technology to get things done. Getting your driver's license renewed, they'll go stand in line. We'll go stand in line. We'll stand in line to get our tags when you're a click away from being able to do that, and to have 36% of our students registered online the first year of implementation speaks to the fact that our parents will get there. The fact that I think the school district was intentionally giving them more time. I think as a principal, because I've been there on the first day of school and seeing them, you're trying to welcome parents to school. At the same time, you're dealing with do they have the proper documentations to have 36% completed with still, 8 to 10 days before we go day one, and we'll continue to make that push. I think it's a huge achievement for year one for a program that's just been put in place, because change is hard for any of us. You know the way I did business last year. I want to go and do the same thing next year.
Exactly.
And so it's going to be just that change process that will take place over time. As Superintendent Hopson, the technology has been there, and now that the merger's behind us, it was the right decision, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, and for parents who feel like, gosh, technology, they're technically challenged. If they want to come into the school August 4th, there'll be people there to help assist them to register online at the schools. But I know that was one of the big concerns, and you're right, Kevin, is that people are a little bit afraid of change sometimes. Yeah. And because I remember the first time I did my driver's license, and after that I went, hey, man, this is cool. I don't have to go and stand in line for 3 hours anymore,
That's right. So I got to tell you, Paul, so I registered my kids online, and it took about 7 or 8 minutes, and I'm slow with technology, so, I mean, just to not have to go down and stand in line, it would take me an hour. So.
Oh, exactly, and that's and that's sort of interesting, because I talked when we had the big registration kickoff. I talked to several people, and they said, 6-7 minutes. That's all it took to register everybody. Here, we're running out of time here. I got another question here from 7:43 right now. Misha wants to know about start times. Have they changed?
They have not changed, Paul. I think we've messaged that. We put that on the website. I know schools are reinforcing it, but no start times have changed. One exception, I think Chargene Elementary changed because the community and the parents wanted to change it. I think they changed from 9:15 to 8:15.
All righty. We've got about a minute left here. I know you guys have some kudos you want to give out.
I just want to give another huge shout, Paul, to our teachers and our school leaders and our students. Again, when you improve in 9 of 10 categories and achieve the highest level of growth allowed in the state, it just speaks to their hard work. I cannot give them enough kudos and enough praise, and my message to them is thank you, thank you, thank you. But we got to continue to work even harder. I'm so proud of the improvements, but we've got to now focus on accelerating the pace of those improvements and also drilling down on this literacy work. And I know that if there's any group of teachers and school leaders in the country who can get it done, it's those here in Memphis and Shelby County.
And I'll echo that and finalize and close out with parents. I'm excited for them, and I know they'll be spending next week taking advantage of Tennessee's tax-free week and then getting ready to start school. So we're excited to do this work, but mainly, we want to make this as an exciting experience for our parents and teachers as possible. So, Paul, thank you for giving us this opportunity to share a few things with you and the listening community.
Well, it's been a while, we had a little bit of a summer break there, so glad to have you guys in, and we're going to make this a regular thing again this year. It's been very successful. It's a great opportunity for our listeners and for our viewers to ask questions to the super and to the board vice chairman. So we appreciate you guys coming in, okay?
Appreciate you.
And let's make it a great school year.
Absolutely.
All righty. SCS Live with Superintendent Dorsey Hopson and Vice Chairman Kevin Woods. We appreciate them coming in. It's now 7:46.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
The problem is the public makes healthcare decisions based on how they feel. I have a tendency to call it the I feel good syndrome. If I feel good, how could there be anything wrong with me? I feel great. I just did full court basketball or 18 holes of golf. Most people can lose up to 80, 90% of their kidney function and feel great. You can't make healthcare decisions solely based on how you feel.
In times of joy, in moments of grief, we are there. When the world looks for truth, broadcasters come through, even when all else fails. Today, with more ways than ever to experience the moments that transform our lives, Americans still choose broadcast television and radio more than all other media combined. We are the local broadcasters of radio and television.